Brand loyalty is dead, or at least it's more dead than it used to be, with people willing to jump ship and go to different brands all the time. We're a generation of people now who don't want mummy's Mercedes or daddy's BMW. We want something that's a bit more unique and a bit more representative of our individuality. And that is where a brand like Genesis and the new GV60 can really capitalise. The Genesis GV60 is actually the brand's first all-electric model. It came to the market with a few petrol and diesel offerings that have since been electrified, but the GV60 right from the get-go has been electric. But let's start with what we can see. This really lovely river pebble-like design. In a world of sharp creases and cars seemingly designed with rulers to make them look so aggressive, this has an air of elegance. Look how there's no real hard creases, that dual bar light design that wraps around smoothly on the bodywork, and how that smooth cadence continues through into the shoulder line and the almost teardrop-like rear window. And Genesis should be praised for leaving this era of brutalism behind, because that kind of angry down the road look that was maybe really pioneered by the Germans, I think's had its day. Isn't this actually a refreshingly elegant and gentlemanly design in comparison? This particular model wears some really nice 19-inch alloy wheels, optioned with contrasting copper calipers. Now, whilst this metallic grey is not the most inspiring colour, it certainly shows up the contrasting gloss details and that really distinctive lightning bolt that you see in the C-pillar. While the Genesis GV60 does share its platform with sister cars such as the Kia EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5, you wouldn't really tell from the interior because it's a different world in here. It's a lavish and sculpted interior with interesting designs, neat stitching and premium materials. There's eco-friendly imitation leather, interestingly textured and shaped surfaces, all studded with a host of technology. It's an overused phrase, but it really is a tech fest in here. We've got two large domineering 12.3-inch displays, one that serves as a widescreen infotainment display and the other a customizable digital driver's display. The infotainment system is really straightforward to use and clutter-free, but for most of us plugging in a smart device, the fact that it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto makes it all the sweeter. As mentioned, it's touchscreen, but also everything can be accessed via a rotary dial and selection of shortcut buttons on this central floating column. Quick bit of noteworthy praise to designers who decided to keep some physical key controls there. It's ideal as opposed to having everything hidden within menus in a touchscreen like we see increasingly with competitor cars. In addition to the screens, other gadgets that come as standard are things like wireless phone charging, rear reversing cameras, which is particularly important because actually rear visibility could be a little better out the back of the GV60, but also some really advanced features such as a fingerprint scanner that can grant you access to the vehicle. As mentioned, the cabin is a really nice space to be in, and these seats are nice and supportive over long journeys as well. They're not too aggressively bolstered like you find on some other vehicles. The kind of faux leather and fabric combination as well adds a nice two-tone element, continuing the theme around the cabin. Thanks to the now traditional skateboard architecture of an EV, passengers in the rear certainly aren't short of legroom. There's no transmission hump to speak of. There's seating for three, with the only gripe being that headroom maybe gets eaten into a little bit by the sunroof. Boot space is 432 litres and there's a nice flat load area to load heavier items into, though that space is slightly smaller than what you find on something like an Audi Q4 e-Tron. It's plenty good enough for the family's weekly shop, or a small dog, or maybe a big dog that's at a small stage of its life, like this puppy Rottweiler called Nala. Out on the road with the Genesis GV60, and it's pretty much how you come to expect electric cars as they've become much more commonplace on our roads. That means it's quiet, there's that added level of refinement and less vibration than you get from a combustion car, a good slug of torque and performance delivery instantaneously. Yeah, this being the GV60 Premium, you'll find that actually it's rear-wheel drive, the motor sits in the back. It's a 226 brake horsepower motor with 350 Newton meters of torque. So not bad performance. You can go all the way up in the range to a Sport Plus model that delivers near 500 brake horsepower. But just because this entry level isn't for those wanting to set the world ablaze with 0 to 60 times, it still gets there in a respectable 7.8 seconds and onto a top speed of 115 miles per hour. It actually does feel a bit faster than that because that initial surge of acceleration is absolutely instantaneous. Like I say, electric cars are more like a light switch. Combustion engine builds its performance, an EV, it's there immediately. It's just been programmed to meter out that performance a little bit more conservatively. And that means that you actually get a range in this vehicle with a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery of around about 320 miles according to WLTP testing. When it comes to charging the Genesis GV60, you can plug it into a 7 kilowatt home wall box for a 0 to 100% charge in around 11 hours. Or plug it in at up to 230 kilowatts at a public rapid charger, and you can get 200 miles back into the car in about 20 minutes. Its snappy performance is plenty executable in the day-to-day because whenever you just need to get out of a junction or take advantage of a gap on a roundabout, you know that it's there immediately. And that's quite a confidence-inspiring thing to have in this vehicle. Something else that's confidence-inspiring is the chassis in general. It has a really good kind of holding of the road. There's no sense that it weighs its near 2-ton curb weight. There's good visibility all around, though, like I say, little restricted at the rear, but these relatively thin A-pillars means that you can see through junctions nice and easy. Steering has a nice bit of weight to it. It feels quite purposeful. You can be quite precise with it. I will say that the low speed ride though is a little bit choppy. It improves the faster you go. It's just that this setup isn't really suited to our pothole riddled UK roads. I'd say the only other thing that really grinds my gears about the GV60, and it's not unique to this car, it is all new cars sold in the EU at the moment, is the amount of bongs and beeps going on here. There's more bleeps in this cabin going on a day-to-day basis than Gordon Ramsay on primetime TV. And it's all because you now have to be warned anytime you are speeding or you enter a new speed zone, and it's all to do with EU regulations. Now, I don't condone speeding. There's a time and a place for going quickly, and it's not whenever you're travelling about town. But should I enter a 30 zone, and because I'm not a robot, I happen to stray and do 31 mile an hour, bong, 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 beep, beep, no. Leave me alone. Oh my God, it's like having the electronic Gestapo in here. Shut up. And I tell you what, it really does start to get irritating after a while. Again, not unique to this car, but certainly something to consider in the modern age, and maybe something for the EU to reconsider. The GV60's behaviour is largely dictated by its drive mode button here on the steering wheel. Set it to eco if you want to achieve absolute maximum mileage, where things like throttle responsiveness is dulled slightly, and of course you can take advantage of the driver-only air conditioning option, which is quite nice when it's just you in the car. Comfort represents quite a nice happy medium in this car, combined, like I say, with that slightly hefty steering weighting, the security that the chassis gives you beneath, and the increased throttle response over eco. I think this is where the car is pretty much at its happiest. This might not be the car for keener drivers, but there is a sport mode. Everything turns red on the dashboard as you'd predict. Everything is at its most rapid in terms of responsiveness. Now, as mentioned, the GV60 Premium is rear-wheel drive as standard, which is good news for those who like a little bit of enthusiastic driving. It means you can tip it in with that nice weighty steering, enjoy the good body control, the stable platform, and the kind of nose-positive attitude that only really a rear-wheel drive car has. Step on the throttle on the way out and enjoy that immediate torque delivery that EVs offer, and I promise you, you'll have a grin on your face. On the steering wheel here as well, you have a set of paddles. Now, they're not there for some kind of imitation gear ratio like some EVs are starting to incorporate. These actually control your regenerative braking and kind of that natural retardation of the vehicle slowing down. Turn it all the way up to level 4 and the car is going to almost feel like it's stepping on the brakes whenever you come off the throttle, which is a nice little trait to have if you're going through some really tight, twisty bends to get that initial kind of weight transfer on the front of the car. Obviously, around town, you maybe don't want that really snappy and actually arguably head-nodding, inducing motion of level 4 regeneration, so you back it all the way off to level 1 and the vehicle basically coasts. Now, we all know that EVs don't come cheap, though there are some quite affordable ones starting to enter the market now, but generally speaking, with their battery tech and the premium nature of the Genesis, the price tag is not exactly small. This car starts at £53,300. However, it's worth saying that it comes packed with standard equipment and has a real luxury feel to it. Additionally, you're part of quite a rarefied club. You don't see very many Genesis out on the road, and every time I have stopped to charge this vehicle, everyone wants to come and talk about it. In fact, one person even mistook it for a small Aston Martin. Quite the compliment, I think, for Genesis. So there you have it, the Genesis GV60, the EV for the person who doesn't want to turn up to a dinner party wearing the same suit as everybody else.